Bienvenidos. Welcome to Chisme Con Propósito.
This is Diana.
And this is Diana.
Chisme con propósito, porque si vamos a hablar, vamos a decir algo.
Si venimos por el chisme,
pero nos quedamos por el crecimiento.
Porque hablar se nos da.
Pero reflexionar también.
Because if we're gonna talk, we're gonna say something. All right, everyone. Welcome to our first ever episode. We're titling it El Piloto because it's the first one. So we want to start off by introducing ourselves, speaking a little bit about who we are. So a ver, Diana, platícame, ¿quién eres?
Yes, so thank you, Diana. We're very excited to be doing this. So my name is Diana. I am 31, originally from the Central Valley. I grew up in Bakersfield. I do now live in LA, so I do say I'm a transplant, but I very proudly say that I am from the Central Valley. I am a proud daughter of immigrants. Both of my parents were from Mexico. And I'm a very proud Sagittarius as well. So you'll notice that we're really big on horoscopes here.
We definitely are. Awesome. Well, I'm Diana. I was born and raised in Echo Park, specifically LA. I am 33, so we're in our early 30s, loving it. It was a little rough when we hit 30, but it gets better, y'all. It gets better.
It does.
I am a proud Gemini. So I know we get bad raps out there, but Geminis are chill. We're cool.
Some.
Not all. I'm also the oldest daughter, so there's a lot to unpack there as the eldest. Sibling. I have 4 siblings. Likewise, proud Mexicana, Chicana, having been raised in LA. But a little bit more about ourselves. Like, obviously, we all work, right? And then we're doing this podcast, but what other identifying markers do you have?
Yeah, so I mean, in a sense, so something about me and Diana is we both work in higher ed. So we're really big on education. Education I think is a really good way to kind of open up your eyes and see a different world than like what you've grown up with. Like I said, I grew up in the Central Valley, so I grew up in an area that was predominantly Latino and predominantly Mexican. So I would say, at least where I was from, the majority of us were Latinos. I would say, like, white people were the minority in Bakersfield, at least in my area, right? And a very big, farm working community. So it also really exposed me to kind of like that background. So I learned a lot about like Cesar Chavez and things like that just from, growing up in a very big like agricultural community.
Yeah, I think similar. I mean, I grew up in LA, so very much a city girl, primarily Latino. I did also live within the historic Filipino town, so heavily with our Filipino community. Likewise, proud Latina, a little bit more. I'm also like a plant mom, so I have a lot of plants in my room, around my house and stuff. We try to stay active, so I run. We both do Pilates.
Yes,
right?
Big Pilates girl. It doesn't get easier. I feel like I've been doing it for the last 2 years, and I feel like every time I leave a class, I'm like, why did that still feel like shit?
Yeah.
But you feel so good afterwards.
You do.
Yeah.
May it all be for the toned body. That's what
yes. Get the booty.
Let's see. I love tattoos, so I do have multiple tattoos. Me and Diana actually have like a matching tattoo. So we'll talk a little bit more about why we have that. I love a good mezcal drink. What's your choice of a drink?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I love like tequila or mezcal. Anything that's sweet. I feel like that is very much my thing. It's like anytime I go to the bar, I'm like, what's the sweetest drink you have? That's tequila or mezcal. And then they're always like, oh, that's very weird. And I'm like, no, give that to me.
Yeah, you're very much of a sweet tooth.
Yes.
I'm also Alexa Norteña de Corazón, so I love like Norteña music. I love dancing. I am a former CrossFit girl, but now Pilates, just doing Pilates and running. And then I feel like we're very much into astrology, so you're going to hear us talk a lot about that.
Yes.
Very much a true Gemini and a true Sagittarius in the room, for sure.
No, yeah, we definitely claim it. Like anytime, like before I say my name, I'm like, I'm a Sagittarius. And I'm like, what's your sign?
Like, we need to know.
Yes, we need to know. I mean, I feel like, kind of is like, somos chismosas. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, you want to know information.
Yeah. I feel like your astrology sign says a lot about you, too.
Yes.
The way you react, the way you connect. Yeah, very much.
That's true.
Yeah.
I agree. And I feel like, so kind of going into that, I feel like me and Diana have a lot of similarities, which is the reason why we wanted, we thought we could do a podcast and why people suggested it, right? Because we have a lot of very similar, like, family values, especially, being Latinas, I think, in our families, like, we're really, I feel like my therapist says, like, we're the family managers, so I feel like that has continued now as we've gotten older, and I feel like 30s are the new 20s, so it's like now is the best time.
Definitely, yeah. I think, having growing up, we grew up low income, under resource, mixed status families as well. I think that plays a huge role in our identity. I think why we do the work that we do, right, within higher ed, and being that, like, person that we wish we would have had, like, growing up and having to figure out everything, like, on your own, right? Like, how to apply to college, what does college even look like, where to go, what to study. Like, I had no idea sociology was a major.
Yeah,
like,
same, yeah.
All you know is, like, a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher.
Yeah, which did you go in as a sociology major when you went to?
I actually did.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
I went in a sociology major, and then I added the Latin and Latino American, like, studies once I was there, because I took some classes and I fell in love with it. I think, a lot of, like, what we grew up seeing within, like, our communities, right? I think that really put it into perspective for me.
Yeah, which, again, I think another example, like, why we get along so well, right, is, like, so both of us went to UC Santa Cruz, very proud banana slugs, yes, and I think it really, we have both majored in the same thing. I was asking because I didn't go in as a sociology major, I went in as a legal studies major, but then I changed my major, and I mean, I love it. I feel like it's nice because it's an area where, like, you see your own experience reflected in, like, the courses that you're taking. Definitely. So I think it's, it works out really well.
So you wanted to be a lawyer?
I wanted to be a lawyer, yeah. I wanted to go to law school, and then I took a class and I hated it, and I was like, maybe not. But I think sociology was really good because I think it kind of showed me, like, that, like, there are other people who have, like, similar backgrounds and, like, experiences as myself, and I think it was an opportunity to look at, like, my experience and my community and see, like, okay, like, these aren't just individual issues that we're facing, but it's a part of, like, a larger problem, that, like, our communities are affected. And same with, like, LALS, I think a lot of, and we'll talk about this, in future episodes, which is really exciting, but kind of seeing how, a lot of the, things that, like, Latinos face in the U.S., it's very much tied to, like, where they're coming from, and also understanding, like, what forces them to migrate.
Exactly.
So I think and Santa Cruz is very unique, a little plug for, like, Future Banana Slugs, but it's, like, a really great, program that not a lot of campuses have.
Very unique, yeah, that they have, like, the meshing of, like, two majors. I think it really puts things into perspective, and understanding how a single factor, right, doesn't dictate a person or, like, their actions. I think it's that intersectionality of, like, your gender, your identity, your upbringing, your background. So, yeah, that's how we met.
Yeah, that's how we met. So we've known each other for how long, Diana?
8 years. We met in 2018.
Yeah, so even though both of us went to Santa Cruz, we actually never met at Santa Cruz. We were kind of in very similar circles, but for some reason nunca nos encontramos at Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz is a very big campus, so I mean, it's kind of hard.
It's huge.
But we ended up working together in 2018, and I mean, we've been friends since then.
Yeah, it's been a few years. So again, we're both in higher ed, so it's through that work that we met each other. And even though we worked from home, because we were regionals, right? So it was a lot of, like, virtual meetings all over Zoom. So when COVID hit, we're already very used to just working from home.
Yeah, so, like, when people were struggling, I'm like, oh my god, like, you're muted, you're unmuted. Like, we were like, bruh, is this, like, como que nunca nos ha dado esto? So we're professionals when people were struggling because, we were remote. So we never really, like, we interacted, pero nunca convivíamos así como, like, really get to know each other. It was very, like, oh, like, you live in LA. And then we started working together more, and then we're like, oh shit, like, this is fun. Like, I fuck with her. She's a Gemini, which I had never interacted with Geminis, I feel like we tend to surround ourselves with very similar signs. Gemini was not a sign that I was very familiar with. Didn't really interact with you all.
Very, very much. I think when I shared I'm a Gemini, you're like, oh.
Because you hear such bad things about Geminis. And I feel
we
like
get such a bad rap.
Yes, y'all really do get a really bad rap. But I feel like, you know, you've really shown out for your Geminis. I still have some bones to pick with them, but overall, I feel like y'all have really good qualities.
We do. And I think it's through working together, right, that we also learn that we complement each other.
Yes.
So if y'all didn't know this, Gemini and Sagittarius are sister signs. So I do want to read like a little snippet just because I feel like it perfectly describes like our relationship. But Gemini and Sagittarius are sister signs because they sit opposite of each other on the zodiac wheel, sharing same curious energy but expressing it differently. Gemini is all about gathering information, conversations, and ideas, while Sagittarius zooms out to search for meaning, truth, and wisdom. So while one is asking what's interesting, the other asks, what does it all mean? Together, they balance each other out. And balance each other out with curiosity, with purpose, making this sister sign dual dynamic, funny, and never boring, which I think is very telling.
Yes, it is. And I feel like we didn't even know that they were sister signs. You know, I feel like the government, they be listening in on our conversations. Because I feel like we'd always like, oh wow, we work really well together. And then all of a sudden we started getting like TikToks and reels about like Geminis and Sagittarius being sister signs. And we're like, oh my god, this makes sense. Yes, it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we complement each other. I feel like you are very much like, you know, very detail oriented. Sometimes to a fault, but we still love it. And I feel like you're very much like, okay, we have to be organized. We have to have everything set up. You're the one creating like the Google Docs and the folder. Yes. And sometimes, you know, you sometimes get like too focused on checklists. And then I'm like, okay, Diana, like let's reel it back. Like, you know, like what's the big picture? You know, like what do we want to get out of this? Like, what do we want people to feel or like experience?
Yes. I feel like you're able to kind of like ground me back. But I can hyper focus and fixate on like the details and like what needs to get done in order to get that goal or work done. But that I think really is very, it describes us because one of the first events that we did, right, was a yield event, right, for like students at UCSC. And I think it's through that like project that we took on that we learned more about ourselves. We like co-hosted. We co-hosted that program. That was the first co-host.
We even went live on Instagram a few times, actually, right? For like our admitted student events. That was actually, you're right. That was our first time, co-hosting. And I feel like it was our first time like really working together. And like you said, like really getting to know each other. And I feel like especially for that event, like I still feel like it's like our baby, you know? I feel like it was an event that like was very personal to us, right? Because, and we'll talk about it in the future about like education and stuff like that, but I feel like for us, it was like a Spanglish, we said it was like a Spanglish admitted student event, where, you know, we wanted to incorporate like our community and like make them feel welcomed at a campus that like the reality is like, you know, these institutions aren't set up for us.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of like our own personal experiences having first ones to go to college, right? And then also the worry from our parents, like, oh, they're going to go away. What does that mean? How do you pay for it? So I think we took a lot of that to create the event, right? And that's why part of like the event included a parent and student panel where they were asked questions around, you know, what was the transition like? How do you all communicate? What is like safety on campus? And
I feel like it also really taught us about how to like, you know, back each other up and like kind of like, I feel like sometimes like because we have similar perspectives but also different perspectives, I think you always come in with the facts. Like you're always like, this is, you know, like I have like something to back this up, and I'm very emotional, so I'm always like more, you know, feelings wise. So I feel like even with that event, I think that was like our first time like where we were learning to kind of like back each other up and be like, hey, like this is an important event. And I was like, because, you know, our students' families like need this, and like we need to provide like a, you know, like a parent to share their experience. And even like the questions, right, where we're asking them like, well, how did you support your student, you know, when she went away for college? And I feel like you did really good about like describing like the role that families play in getting their child to like go to higher ed and like leave home. And so I think that was really our first kind of example of like putting that into like action.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. We compliment each other.
Yeah, we do. So it's just a little example of us, you know, what we've done and what we hope to accomplish, right, with this podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's like a good segue into kind of like, you know, introducing how we see things, because I think you're right. Like, I feel like you bring a lot of emotion, and then I bring a lot of like the facts and like, you know, I think more subjective, I guess, points of view. But I think very much of like mine is gathering a lot of information, understanding and being able to like see both sides of things, right? And then coming kind of like to a compromise, or kind of like meeting like in the middle. Which can sometimes lead me to being indecisive. So I feel like that's where you step in and you're like,
oh my God, yes. Well, flip-flopping a little too much. Because she's a Gemini.
Yeah. Well, with that, I think it's also like, you know, as we're starting like our first episode, we've talked a lot. I mean, it's in our name, right? Propósito. So, you know, what are your intentions as we hold conversations, as we move through these episodes?
Yeah, and I feel like, you know, when we were really talking about starting a podcast, we really did talk about like what our goal was and like our intentions. I think it's really about having conversations, right? That I feel like sometimes we avoid, right? Because we think that someone's going to judge us, or because we think that our experience is like, only I'm experiencing this, right? And so I feel like my intention is to really kind of like normalize these conversations, and then at the same time, like build community with like other people who, you know, might not have this community. I feel very lucky and very blessed, you know, that we have each other and we have our friends, but I think really creating more space for us and like others who have similar experiences to ourselves, you know?
Agree. Yeah. I think to add on to that, it's just being real, having like raw discussions, real talks when it comes to, you know, different topics, chismes, all the chismes out there happening. And yeah, I think the biggest thing is also just building community, right? I think sometimes we can feel like we're alone in something, but the reality is that there's a lot of us facing the same challenge or achieving, you know, different goals. So just being able to share our experiences, talk through them, what we learned. So we'll hope, you know, you'll all join us.
Yeah, and hopefully you follow through and see like the messiness that are the 30s.
Exactly, the messiness of the 30s. It's rough, yeah. But it's fun. It's fun too.
Yes, it's fun. You know, we can laugh about it. We can make jokes about it. Because you know what? I feel like I also like to think that like our parents did not experience this, right? Like I feel like at our age, our parents had kids. You know, they had to like, you know, take care of a family. So I think right now we're good. We're good. Yeah.
There's stuff, but we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then for Chisme Con Propósito, we want to talk about sort of like why, right? Why Chisme Con Propósito?
Yeah. And I think that the name kind of, I feel like it felt very natural because pues somos chismosas, you know? Like my mom always says like, no niego la cruz de mi parroquia. Like, you know, this is something that we grew up. I think we grew up with chisme, with like our moms, talking to like our tias, their comadres, a vecina. And I think that a lot of times chisme gets like a very bad rap. Like they're like, ay, andas con de chismosa con la vecina. You know? And so it's very much seen as like, oh, andas de chismosa, so you're talking bad. Or andas hablando mal de ciertas personas. But no, like I think chisme has really become this thing of just like conversations, you know, checking in.
Yeah, and I think that's very much at the core of why we're also doing, right? Because we always check in with each other. And honestly, the first 20 minutes of any call or conversation is, how are you? What's happening with work, with life, with family, with relationships, some situationships out there, just every part of like, you know, current reality. And like, I think it's always been with intention of hearing each other out, right? Holding space for each other. So really building like community amongst us. Trying not to judge, you know, but giving advice here and there.
We listen and we don't judge. Or we listen and we do judge. Pero con cariño. I feel like my biggest thing is like you always come in with like, you know, it's for tu bien, you know? when we're telling each other certain things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think chisme is healing, you know? Like, I think it's really where we connect with others. And I feel like, yeah, we usually, when we check in with each other, it's like, what's a chisme? You know, like, what's happening? And it really is just an opportunity for us to hear and just, like, you know, desahogarnos, you know, hablar de lo que está pasando. So I feel like chisme is very much, like, just, you know, what we know how to do. And I think also, like, I feel like, you know, everyone's like, ay, las mujeres son bien chismosas. I've seen guys que también son chismosos.
They are. I feel like even more than us women.
No, yeah, and I would always hear my mom be like, ay, no andes de chismoso, esos son de las mujeres. And I'm like, I think that's for everyone.
Yeah, it's for everyone. It's for everyone. And it's everywhere. I mean, it's not only within our family, within our friends. It's at work, too.
Yes.
And I feel like sometimes through those conversations, you know, at work, like, you're also not only hearing them out, holding space, but you can be a resource for them.
Yes.
You know, maybe there's a piece of advice that you can share. And I think that's what builds community, right? And where you shouldn't feel like you're alone because there's others out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then, you know, we chose con propósito, right? Because, like, again, like, if we're going to say something, you know, it's going to be for, like, a reason. And so there's always a reason behind, like, what we're talking about, whether it's, like, building community, like you said, or whether it's just, like, listening to each other or, like, seeing how you can connect with, you know, another person. So I feel like it really is that there's, you know, a reason in our conversations, even if it's just, like, para hablar puras pendejadas, you know, but there's a reason, you know, it's, like, you taking it out, like, just saying how you really feel. So I think we wanted to, you know, do Chisme Con Propósito because queremos chismear, pero
with intention.
With
intention. And just being real about what's happening, not only like in our lives, but also outside, right, within our communities. And I think just bringing awareness as well. Yes. That's the biggest thing, bringing awareness and different perspectives too. I feel like, you know, we tend to align in a lot of things. But
no, don't start now.
we tend to. But we might have different perspectives, right? When it comes to certain like things. So we hope that through this podcast, we'll be able to have really good conversations.
Yes, and I feel like sometimes, like, it's, I feel like we also hold each other, like, accountable, you know, to certain things, and we're also just here to, you know, like, how can we grow from this, right? I feel like every time, like, I end a call with, whenever we're on the phone, I feel like, okay, like, I need to do this, because le dije a Diana que yo iba a hacer esto, lo tengo que hacer. And then we also, like, check in, right? So it's like, if I tell you, like, oh my God, this happened to me the other day that I went out, you're like, so what ended up happening afterwards?
We need follow-ups.
Yes, we need follow-ups.
Yeah. And we pump each other up. I feel like, you know, you went to Pilates class, I went running. I feel like we hype each other up.
Oh, yeah, runner. Yeah. She's a runner, she's a track star.
We're trying out here. No, but running, I feel like growing up, I was not athletic, but running has been very, like, liberating for me. It's been interesting. I'm over here with my little, like, vest and stuff.
I really like it.
You know, out here trying, but it's been good, yeah. Well, I feel like we should take a shot to celebrate.
Yeah, I mean, oh my God. Don't think we're alcoholics, y'all. It's just, you know, de vez en cuando. Diana says that she only drinks cuando le ofrecen, right, Diana? Que tú nunca eres la que dices, let's take a shot.
Sí, pues si me ofrecen uno,
ay, no lo pueden negar.
I can't.
Okay, well, let's get into it then, right? Oh, we also, our producer is taking a shot in the back of the camera as well.
Shout out to our producer for believing in us.
But okay, we'll take it.
Let's go.
Ay, Dios, tengo miedo. My mom's gonna be like, o sea, nomás están grabando para tomar.
Es que es para los nervios.
Es para los nervios, no me regañes.
All right.
Ay, cheers.
That's good.
Every time.
I know. That's good. Well, I mean, now that you've all met us a little bit, you know, because I feel like there's still a lot more to learn. But I hope you'll join us all in this journey as we navigate womanhood, being Latinas, and have, like, just real raw conversations, chisme, you know, with attention, of course. guided by your favorite Sagittarius and Gemini.
Yeah, and we hope that, this is the beginning of like a new journey. I mean, we're very excited. I think this is something that we've been talking about
for
the last
years.
Yes, for years. People have been telling us like, oh, y'all should start a podcast because pues somos bien platicadoras. And so I feel like it's very exciting times for us. And I think that this is honestly like the perfect time given everything that's like been happening in our community. And so really like holding space for like each other. And I think also like learning to balance like both like good things and bad things because, the world isn't perfect, y nosotros tampoco somos perfectos. So we'll also be sharing about like some of our bad choices that we sometimes make, but also like how we pick ourselves up,
Yeah, we're going to talk about the good, the bad, the struggles, the achievements.
Everything in between.
Everything in between. We're not going to hold back and really keep it real.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll hope you join us next time. There's a lot happening in our community, so we'll definitely be tackling our political climate.
Yes, so definitely stay tuned. We're excited to have a conversation both about, what's currently happening, right? Because we can't ignore what's happening, but also like what can we be doing now to like help our community and like really get through this like tough time because, we've only been here for a year already and it's been wild.
And it's only January, y'all. It's the first month of the year. Todavía nos falta.
Dude, this is the longest January of my life.
Ever, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, Jesus, has it always felt this long?
I think we say that every year.
Yeah, it just gets longer.
It just gets longer, yeah. But we're in this together. You're not alone, so we hope you join us.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone, for listening to Chisme Con Propósito.
Where the tea is hot.
The takes are unfiltered.
And somehow we still make it make sense.